So one example of this for me that really illuminates the gospel of Jesus Christ more is I was reading several years ago in Alma chapter 7, and Alma there, he's preaching about the atonement. And he says, he keeps repeating a certain phrase as he's describing what Christ did for us and his sacrifice for us. He keeps repeating the phrase, take upon him. He says Christ will take upon him our infirmities. Christ will take upon him our transgressions. Christ will take upon him our pains. He uses it for about something like 7 different things. And one of them, he says, he will take upon him death. And that's the one that really struck me because if you think about that phrasing, it's weird. So you and I will someday die. And when we do, how many people are going to say, he took upon him death? Nobody, right? Because we don't take upon us death. We're sort of taken on by death, right? We don't take it upon ourselves. It's not voluntary. It just happens. So it's something we're subject to. So this is King Benjamin's language in his great sermon, right? He says, I'm subject to infirmities like everyone, as infirmities of body and mind. We are subject to infirmities. We are subject to death. What it's calling attention to with this language of taking upon him is that Christ wasn't subject to these things like we are. He took them upon himself voluntarily. In other words, we have to bear these burdens. We have to die. We have to deal with the consequences of sin because we've sinned. We have to suffer pain. Christ didn't have to do any of those things. In the Book of Mormon title page, as I mentioned earlier, declares Jesus is the Christ, the eternal God. It talks about him having been a divine, right, God before he came to the earth. And so he takes these things upon himself voluntarily for us. So he is voluntarily shouldering our burdens. Our own burdens we have to shoulder. There's no choice. But the burdens of others are optional to shoulder. He shoulders ours for us. When we read in Mosiah 18, where baptism is first instituted in the Book of Mormon, and Alma challenges his people to make a covenant of baptism, he asks them, are you willing to comfort those who stand in need of comfort, mourn with those who mourn, and take upon you one another's burden, bear one another's burdens. And what he's asking us to do is what Christ did. He's not asking us just to bear our own burdens. Again, that's not optional. He's challenging us. The covenant challenge is to bear one another's burdens. It's to live on the pattern of Christ's sacrifice for us. And so I think for a long time I'd had this idea that there's what Christ did in the gospel, the good news, right? His suffering for us. And then there's what the gospel asks us to do, how it asks us to live toward our fellow human beings. And those are really like 2 different things. They're not. What Christ did and what he asks us to live, it's the same thing. It's the same pattern. We're being asked to live on the pattern of the gospel. We're being asked to live on the pattern of what he did for us, to do something similar for others, to bear one another's burdens.